This is part 1 of our Georgia O'Keeffe flowers. You will need your canvas, a pencil, an eraser, and a black oil pastel. That is the only tools you'll need for today. For the first flower, you're going to start with a little circle in the center, and then you're going to make like teardrop petals going around it. You're going to start with some smaller ones that don't go all the way to the edge, and you'll probably end up with about 4. Okay, when you finish, you're going to make bigger teardrop petals going in between each one, and then you'll have another 4. And these ones should get closer to the edge, and if you were a little too close before, you might have it actually overlap, which is what happens here. And that's okay, just pretend like it's still going. And then the last thing you're going to do in between those petals that you just made, your medium-sized ones, you're going to make 4 large petals. When you're finished, go ahead and erase anything that you messed up on, and you're going to go over it with black oil pastel. For flower number 2, you're going to need your paper to be portrait style, and you're going to start with a pretty big oval in the center, because this will be the main middle part of your tulip. You'll notice that the bottom part is a little skinnier, and then we're going to go over with part of the petal. It has kind of like a semi-circle or semi-oval shape where they overlap. Then you're going to erase the part that's behind the petals. So I chose one petal to be in front, and I'm going to erase the rest of the lines. So you won't be able to see that center piece, just that one petal with a little bit overlapping the other petal. Once you do that, you can put the stem down at the bottom, and you'll be adding a couple leaves to that. But let's get back to the top, and you're going to make kind of like triangles, but I like to again make them kind of teardroppy to connect those other petals together. If you notice that the first petals you made are not teardroppy enough, you can fix that, just erase it. And then I don't like how circular and skinny it is, so I'm going to flatten it out a little and connect those petals down to the bottom like they're going behind that. Next, we're going to add the leaves at the bottom, and these are going to be really thin leaves, so I'm just going to make 2 wavy lines that are parallel, and then one line in the middle to have the crease of the leaf. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. You can decide if they're going to be bigger or smaller, but this is about the same size, or the size that you want. Go ahead and go through, fix it till you like it. And when you're satisfied with the way it looks, you're going to go over it with a black oil pastel, tracing over those lines. For flower number 3, you're going to start landscape style, and you're going to start by choosing which corner you want your middle of your flower to be. I chose the left bottom corner. So you're going to do just part of a circle as if it was going to continue off the paper. Now we're going to start with one big petal, very skinny, coming off the middle. And you want it to go all the way off the edge of the paper. If you need to, you can rotate your paper just to get a better angle. And then that'll have your starting petal, and that'll tell you where to make the rest of your petals. So you're going to just continue on making skinny petals just like that, all the way to the edge of your paper, even if it's coming off. Okay, when you're done with your petals, you're going to go back to that middle part of your flower, and we're just going to add some circles in there, just like a sunflower would have seeds in the center. You don't want them to be too small because you are going to go over with black oil pastel, but just go ahead and put little circles wherever you think they should go. Last thing you're going to do is add some little creases in the middle of your petals, and that'll just make it have a little bit more depth to it. And remember, when you're done, erase any mistakes that you made and anything that you don't want there anymore. Go over with your black oil pastel and you're good to go. On flower number 4, you're going to start again landscape style. And you want to start with an odd shape in the center, not too big, but you don't want a perfect circle. So you just make it kind of like when you fry an egg. And then we're going to put just some straight lines out from it. Don't let them go quite all the way to the edge. You're going to stop them right before you get there. And that is going to help us decide how thick our petals are going to be. Now you're just going to connect them with a curved line. As you can see, I'm going up and down to each petal, and I'm connecting them. And this will again just give me the shape of my flower. Okay, now that I've refined that, I'm going to go through and I'm going to make it more separated like a petal by going to each edge and curving it around, as you can see up there. And I'm going to have to go back through and erase some of those lines so it isn't so messy. But again, you might notice from each line that goes into the center, I'm kind of making it wavy. It's not a perfect circle at the top. When you're done with all the petals, you're going to go in the center, and I just put a couple dots that I'll be adding with that black oil pastel again. And then the last thing you're going to do, just like the last flower, we're going to add some little more curved lines in the center just to give it a little bit more depth. And remember to go over those lines with black oil pastel. Okay, flower number 5 is again landscape style. And you're going to start with a really small circle in the center, and then again that egg type of shape around it, not too big. Now this next one is going to look kind of like octopus tentacles. You might want to watch before you copy, but you're just going around it all the way until they connect. Next we're going to add the big petals, and you're going to go out and you want 3 bumps. It's not going to be a perfectly circular edge, and you want the lines to look like if you were to continue them, they would connect back to that center circle. And you're going to go all the way around. These petals are not going to be touching the edge unless you drew your center a little close to the edge. Then perhaps you would. You're going to go all the way around, and remember you need 3 bumps. Next, we're going to add those larger petals on the outside, and we just want them to be quite big. They don't need to have the 3 bumps. In fact, they can have 4 bumps, but you don't want them to be perfectly circular. You just want them to go all the way around. And as you can see, I'm only able to fit 5 of those, and when they come off the edge, I just imagine like they're still connecting. And when you're done, you're going to go over with black oil pastel. For flower number 6, you're going to want to start landscape style, and you're going to start with a pretty decent sized circle in the center. And we're just going to do basic flower petals going all the way around, the ones that are rounded at the tip, and you want them to come off the edge part of the way, and I'm just going to go all the way around. Next, we're going to add a little bit of depth to our petals again. This time we're going to do about 3 or 4 lines. One will be more centered and a little longer, and then usually about 2 on the edges. If you have a wider petal, you might want to do 4 and just figure out exactly what you want to do. But this way it'll add a little bit of texture to that center part. Okay, here comes the hard part, the part that's going to take the longest. You're going to go into that center circle with a bunch of little circles, and I like to start on the edge of it. Now you don't want to make them too small because remember you are going to be using oil pastel and it's pretty thick. So I wouldn't go any smaller than the circles you see me making in the picture. But you're going to end up filling that entire circle, and I just keep going around and around and around with tiny little circles. Now that you're finished, you're going to go over it with oil pastel. The 7th and final flower is going to be portrait style. You're going to start with a big teardrop shape, and this is just the outline. We're going to actually add details to this, and you're going to connect a little stem to it. Go ahead and make a leaf on the left side. I like to use like an arc with a smaller arc underneath and then connect it. The right side is just another teardrop, and I connect that to the stem as well. Now here comes the complicated part. I'm going to start with tiny teardrops. Now the teardrops need to be upside down, so the pointed end is towards the bottom and the circular part is towards the top. Now in this part I do mess up. I was going to make little flowers in it. Ignore that. Don't copy me yet. I will be fixing that in just a second. But you're going to just go along the edge like I'm doing right now with a teardrop shape. Again, you are going to go over this with oil pastel, so don't worry about making them too small. You want them to be a little bigger. There are certain points where I make them a little too small and you don't see them later when I actually add the oil pastel. So just go through it all. I start on the edge, and then I actually end up keep going on the edge, and I realize if you start on the bottom and build your way up, that is a lot better. So you may want to watch me for a little bit before you start working on this. Now that you're finished with those tiny petals, go ahead and darken up the stem, and then the leaves are actually going to have a wave to them, so I follow those lines I made, but I make them a little bit wavier. And then the one at the bottom is going to stay straight, because that's where the fold of the leaf is. I add a couple lines just to show the veins of the leaves, give it more depth. And if you don't like the way that looks, just don't add it. And then the other leaf is the same thing. We're going to go along the edge and we're just going to make it wavy. Now I do realize that the stem connecting my second leaf is a little thick, so I'm going to erase it and I'm going to thin it out a little bit. And then I go back and make the, again, veins of my leaf through the middle. If you don't like it, don't add it. There you go. Remember, when you are finished, you are going to go over with black oil pastel. And you are done with part 1.